What it do, suckers? It's your boy the Hater, up in this mug once again. Hater outdoors, it's a beautiful night. It's very late, and the Hater is trying to get the most out of his Hater outdoors videos because that's going to soon come to an end once we start getting Hater in the basement or Hater in the office, wherever the hell I decided to do my videos for my new home. So, that being said, obviously the video at hand is a raw review, and I will be honest, there were many segments of this episode that I enjoyed, but the episode itself is still riddled with many inconsistencies and thus many reasons why the Hater will say that this episode sucks. But it is not the worst Raw of all time like we have been getting used to seeing in recent times. So, with that being said, as usual, we're gonna go through this segment by segment, cuckolds. So, it's kind of windy too up in this bitch, but you'll have to bear with me because the Hater is trying to make the most out of these Hater outdoors that we've got left. I mean, I'm still gonna do them because sometimes I'm not home when I decide to make a video, but that's not here nor there. You guys don't need to know the intricacies of the Hater's process. So the show starts, the cuckster himself comes out. Cena also comes out. Actually, Cena comes out first. Now, Cody Rhodes starts out by saying he has a lisp and that he used to be Stardust, thereby burying himself, you know? Understandable. There's a lot that Cody can do to bury himself. Cena then comes out and finally cuts a promo on Cody Rhodes, right? Instead of just saying like, oh, the fans, this, the fans, that, he explains that Cody Rhodes sucks, basically. We're going to go through it, but I want to point out one thing. Like, a lot of people are going to love this because Cena, someone that people like now, buried Cucky Rhodes, someone that people are clearly about to turn on, right? But the Hater, even though I enjoyed this promo, even Cody Rhodes' stuff, if I'm being honest, the fact of the matter is that this was not a great promo by Cena, but for only for one reason, and that is that it's inconsistent with what has happened thus far. Up until now, we were under the impression that John Cena had turned heel because the fans had got on his nerve. But it turns out that his actual gripe is with the cuckster himself. He tries to connect the two, but they don't really connect very well. Anyways, after Cena buries him, Cena basically says that he beat Cody up because Cody is a Cena ripoff and a plagiarist. Cena doesn't use the word plagiarist, but that's what he says. Basically, he says that Cody Rhodes just fit into the template of what you're supposed to be as WWE Champion and just pretty much carried on doing that, despite the fact that Cena invented it. Cena's the one that gave prestige to the title, according to Cena, and Cody Rhodes is just there filling in the blank, filling in the gap. And Cena refers to himself as the last real champion, which I believe should be a moniker for him, much like, you know, the final boss is now a moniker for The Rock. Cena is clearly a massive fan of the Hater because he basically cuts a Hater promo. Cena gets cheers, and here it is, cucks, right on cue. Like I said, in about a year, Cody Rhodes, the boos are going to start. And they started today. Now, I will concede, because the Hater is an honest man, that Cucky Rhodes was able to turn the crowd into his favor again after Cena completely buried him on the mic. The beautiful thing about Cena's words were that it's all facts, right? Like I said, he cut a Hater promo. He said the things that I say about Cody Rhodes. He's manufactured. You know, he's not that good. He has a lisp. He used to be Stardust. All of these things were addressed in this promo. After this, Cody gets booed, like I said, right? He says a bunch of nonsense afterwards and concludes with saying Cena is still his hero, which pretty much doesn't make any sense at all. Cena says Cody had to leave and that Cody sucks one more time, right? This was a good point as well. Cena basically said, I've been here the whole time like I'm John Cena, motherfucker. You're Cucky Rhodes. Your best shot was Stardust and you had to leave because you realized that it wasn't good enough. This is also a fact of life. And once again, it's a Hater point. A point that I've made many times about how people like Cucky Rhodes and Drew McIntyre have to leave, and all of a sudden when they come back, they're inexplicably better. Well, John Cena doesn't buy into this. John Cena says Cody Rhodes is still mediocre, you know? He's 100% right, just like the Hater's been saying. Then after this, which, by the way, this is weird because last year Cena helped Cody Rhodes become WWE Champion, so none of this makes any sense in the long term, right? This doesn't make any sense at all. Cena specifically came out and helped Cucky Rhodes last year at WrestleMania. So if he believed all these things, then why would he do that? Did he expect Cody Rhodes to become a different type of person? Then Cody Rhodes says Cena is the actual manufactured superstar. He's got a decent point there as well. After this, Cody says that Cena can't wrestle, and this, for some reason, pisses Cena off. Well, Cody doesn't even say that. He says that, the crowd has never told him, you can't wrestle. So what? You know what I'm saying? So what? They haven't said that. They say that to John Cena because John Cena is a superstar, and they want to compare him to people like Daniel Bryan, and they want to pretend that Daniel Bryan's a better wrestler than John Cena because Daniel Bryan trained with Randy Couture. Like, nobody gives a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Cena is obviously a better wrestler than Daniel Bryan and Cody Rhodes because wrestling's not a real sport. Cena pretty much encapsulates all this in his promo by saying that he is unique, right? That Cena is talent and he buries mediocrity, which is the obvious truth. If we're all being honest, like I was listening to one of my old videos randomly where I talk about Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder, and I say, all right, look, I like Zack Ryder the way that I've always liked Zack Ryder, you know what I mean? Like he's a decent undercard to mid-card wrestler, kind of like a Shelton Benjamin, you know what I mean? These are like decent, mediocre wrestlers that the fans have to pretend are better than they actually are. Like if we're being honest, and I like Shelton Benjamin as much as the next guy, but let's not get it twisted. Let's not pretend that Shelton Benjamin was anything special. You could have given Shelton Benjamin a Charlie Haas push and Charlie Haas a Shelton Benjamin push, and it would have been the exact same thing, you know what I mean? None of these guys are excellent. None of these guys are polished enough, right? Yeah, Shelton is athletic and he's good in the ring. So is Zack Ryder, but so is Andrade, so is Santos Escobar, so is Carmelo Hayes. Yet none of these guys are ever going to be stars because they don't have what it takes. None of the people that I just mentioned could cut a promo like Cena cut today. And quite frankly, none of the people that I just mentioned could even cut a Cody Rhodes promo because Cody Rhodes did a good job holding his own. I will give him credit where credit's due. The hater is an honest man. Nevertheless, Cody sucks. The fans are going to turn on him. But this is not going to happen, in my opinion, until WrestleMania, where you will get the dueling chance, but people are going to be firmly behind Cena. WWE sees this coming because they're not retarded, or at least not that retarded. But nevertheless, that's what's going to happen, best believe. After this, like I said, Cody Rhodes hits the crossroads on Cena after Cena takes a swing at him because Cody got to him, I guess, right? And then Cena sells it like he got shot by a cannon, Whatever, it is what it is. This promo was good because it made me believe that there's a chance now that Cena could win the title because Cody Rhodes is being presented as the superior wrestler with a superior argument since Cody Rhodes also pointed out that Cena sold his soul to The Rock. This didn't bother Cena. What bothered him was being told that the fans said you can't wrestle to him. What gives a flying fuck, you know what I mean? That shouldn't bother John Cena at all. Number one, it didn't bother him when it was happening. And number two, in this new version of Cena, which is the same exact thing as the old version of Cena, he's just not fun anymore. Like, he's just not a good guy anymore. This entire turn was predicated on John Cena doesn't care what the fans think. So why in the bluest of blue hells would John Cena then be, butthurt about what the fans said to him years ago? I thought he didn't care. Fucking pick a lane, motherfucks. Anyways, next up after this, we have a pretty good match in the New Day versus the New Catch Jobbers. It was only yesterday that I Googled Tyler Bate, wondering if he was still with this company, and I learned yesterday that he had a pectoral tear, and now he's back. The match was pretty good for what it was. Like, for better or for worse, the New Catch Republic, in the context of modern-day tag teams, they have a spot. There's nothing wrong with that. The correct team won when the New Day hit the Daybreak and pinned, I think it was Pete Dunne, but who the fuck cares, Then after this, New Day did some good crowd work while they were being interviewed by Kathy Kelly or whatever. And then the War Raiders came out, and then we really remembered immediately, like, that the War Raiders, if they wanted to in real life, would completely eat the New Day. So it's just ridiculous. The War Raiders are massive motherfucks. They look like real tough guys. And quite frankly, it's like they would have no problem in any capacity destroying Xavier Woods, an anime geek, So it's a little bit silly because it's like, and they're also like twice their size. So it's like, but it is what it is. It's a tag team wrestling. If this match happens at WrestleMania, which I highly doubt it'll be just them, it'll probably involve several other teams. New Day should come out on top. They're the most interesting tag team, and it's been a while since they've been tag team champions, so I'd be cool with that. After this, we have Jimmy Uso versus Gunther, but not before another segment where the two Uso brothers, the two Uso twins, are in the back, and Jimmy says, yo, Gunther's just another guy. I'm going to beat him. You're going to beat him. Jay says, Okay, but like, be careful out there, right? So you know that Big Jim is about to get a thorough ass whooping at the hands of Gunther, and that's exactly what happened. The match was completely one-sided. Of course, Jimmy Uso got his moves in, but there was no doubt in anybody's mind that Gunther's gonna just lay out this complete jabroni, you know what I mean? Gunther looked a little fatter than usual, but it doesn't matter, you know? I consider Gunther to be on the same level as Kozlov and Samoa Joe. Two guys that have basically no personality, except for the fact that Kozlov did at one point when he was with Santino, he had some personality. But they're basically these guys that just wrestled in tights, and there's nothing about them. But this was the one time, I think, ever that Gunther entertained me. I actually enjoyed this very much. This was a classic wrestling promo segment, match, and then post-match situation, right? Everything that happened made perfect sense. They sold the storyline. I don't like the storyline, but I can recognize that they sold it. Jey Uso is insecure because at the end of the day, he's an Uso, and he's fighting Gunther, who is much bigger, much stronger, and quite frankly, in real life, would murder all of the Usos, if we're being honest, and probably all of the Samoans. Oh, Haku would win. I don't know, man. The hater knows some Austrians. They don't fuck around, you know? And Gunther, he embodies that very well. I don't like him, but I did like this segment. Gunther beats up Jimmy Uso, has a few false finishes where he lifts him off the ground, and then he puts the sleeper hold on him. Jimmy Uso passes out. Then he puts the sleeper hold on him again. Jey Uso makes the save. Gunther runs away like a coward. And then after this, we get a commercial break. Back from the commercial break, Jimmy is being held up by Jey as they're walking, right? Gunther comes in from behind, plows both of them, starts whooping their asses thoroughly. He ultimately zip ties Jey Uso to the ropes, but in such a way where Jey can go in and out of the ring. It was really clever, I thought. And then he proceeds to beat the hell out of Jimmy Uso. I really enjoyed this. This was enjoyable on many levels. Number one, you know, I'm tired of the Usos, so it's good to see them get their asses beat. Number two, it showed some personality in Gunther, you know, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I want to detail the beating a little bit because Gunther starts beating the shit out of Jimmy Uso. This was a great beatdown. Jimmy Uso bleeds like a pig, and then Gunther just taunts Jey Uso the whole time, right? Now at this point, because this match is not one of the main events, I am starting to believe that Gunther has a pretty good shot at winning the match. I thought it was axiomatic that Jey Uso was going to beat the boring-ass Gunther, but this is not true if Gunther becomes more entertaining and Jey Uso stays the same. And that's exactly what's happening here. At the end of the day, if this was going to be a feel-good moment, I feel like it would main event night one. This has retained written all over it, right? Gunther retains, there's no reason to celebrate, and we move on to the real main event of night two, or the fake main event of night one, wherever the fuck this match is going to fall, right? But it doesn't seem like Jey Uso really has a snowball's chance in hell at this point. And that's what makes me excited, because now it's like it could go either way. That at least makes it exciting to an extent, right? Will Jey Uso capitalize on his Royal Rumble win, or will he be another Nakamura? Either way, I do suspect that eventually Jey Uso is going to overcome Gunther, because the story has been written like that, right? At some point, he has to beat Gunther, even if it's not at WrestleMania, but it would be sweeter for him, I'm sure, if it were at WrestleMania. In addition, there was blood, and Gunther played around with it. He even licked it, prompting a "you sick fuck" chant, because this is a smarky European crowd like we've had for the past few weeks. These crowds are intolerable at this point. They're just a bunch of smart nobodies, and in the words of the great Bubba Ray Dudley, if the hater had time, he would go out there and beat all of them one by one. Shout out to Bully Ray. But anyways, I really enjoyed this beating. I enjoyed what Gunther did. At some point, Gunther called Jey a pussy. This was great. I really enjoyed that there was a lot of curse words in today's program. But this one was just so out of character, right? And this led to Michael Cole standing up for some reason, like literally standing up. And he was like, Gunther's a hypocrite, right? I like that. Now, I don't like that Michael Cole said it because the fans are not retarded. They can piece 1 and 1 equals 2 together. But that was the point of this segment. Gunther is a hypocrite, right? This is the first time that Gunther has done something like this on this level. Sure, he holds on to the sleeper hold sometimes after the match because he's a heel. But this was actual, like, heel behavior. Gunther is a heel, but he's presented as this guy who is there just to compete. He has no interest in, like, getting revenge. He has no interest in humiliating, anybody, right? Up until now, Gunther's, anytime he's done something tricky or malicious, it's been to get the upper hand, right? So he's a hypocrite in that sense. Like, for example, he might ambush Damian Priest because he doesn't think he can beat Damian Priest. But that's one thing, and that's one category of heel, right? In this case, he wasn't even doing it for that. He was doing it just to be like a cruel dick, and that was great. I really enjoyed that, and Michael Cole pointing this out solidifies that that's exactly what they were going for, right? That Gunther is not this the mat is sacred kind of guy. He is a piece of trash, and this should bolster Jey Uso as well, right? Because the storyline is clearly going into like Jey Uso's gonna then think like, you know what, fuck this guy, I'm gonna give it all I got, Oos, and the fans are gonna be behind him as they always are. Next up, we have a Judgment Day segment. I'm going to stop covering Judgment Day segments. You know what I'm saying? The Judgment Day, in terms of their backstage segments, is on the ban list, as are Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. Naomi, I'll still cover, but the backstage segments are intolerable for Judgment Day, so I skipped that shit. How anyone could possibly care about this is beyond me. Then we got Penta and Braun Breaker versus Dominic and Finn Balor. This was also a pretty decent match. There were some spots in this match that were excellent. Namely, I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. There's a part where Finn and Dom are trying to suplex Braun Breaker, and he basically suplexes them both. Now, I know you're thinking, hater, we've seen this all the time. Not like this, you haven't. Because for a split second, he held them up in a vertical suplex, 2 people at the same time. I had never seen anything like this. Usually what happens is you have someone like Braun Strowman, who is a monster, or Big Show, or Kane, or The Undertaker player, and they do it, and the 2 other guys just jump as high as they can, and Undertaker just kind of guides them backwards, right? It's clearly not a suplex. This felt like a suplex. Obviously, Braun Breaker cannot suplex these guys against their will, but it made it look really, really cool, and it really showed how much strength is required for this. Braun Breaker is legitimately a one-of-a-kind athlete, right? They don't make him like him anymore in the WWE. He reminds me so much of Brock Lesnar in terms of his athleticism that it's not even funny. So you have him, Lashley, Lesnar, that's it. Everybody else is kind of like not on that level in any capacity. You know, you have your like Shelton Benjamins, Nathan Frazier, Cedric Alexander. You know, think of anybody that they tell you is a great athlete, you know. Maybe Chad Gable you can put in that category, and Matt Riddle, because they were just athletic monsters. But like what Braun Breaker can do is just preposterous. This guy is just like full body control. Obviously, he deserves more than what he's getting, but at least he's the Intercontinental Champion. Next up, we got a Logan Paul, AJ Styles segment. Basically, Logan Paul gets massive heat and plays with the crowd. He says he forgives AJ. AJ has a few pre-written lines that he throws out, but he does so in a decent way. AJ calls him a douchebag. This eventually leads to a brawl, and Logan Paul gets the upper hand and hits the pulverizer, which is honestly an awesome move. I can't wait till they put it in the WWE 2K, because it's going to be the haters move. I'm going to call it, you know, either the Hateful Eight, or I'm going to call it with hate wide open. You know what I'm saying? But the point is, the move is fucking amazing. I really enjoy that move. I hope we see more of it. And that's basically it for the show. I feel like I must have missed something, because I feel like more things happen, but that's what I got in my notes, so that's probably what happened, except for, of course, the main event match, which I'm going to go over now very briefly, because, quite frankly, it's not worth going over since we all knew what was going to happen. The match happens. I should point out that there's a part where Rhea Ripley, for anyone that didn't watch, it's Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley for the women's title, and therefore for the chance to fight Bianca Belair at WrestleMania and defend that title. So there's a part where Rhea Ripley does a full-blown avalanche Samoan drop, and like they pretend that Rhea Ripley didn't do it and that Io Sky countered it, right? You know that little crucifix counter they do sometimes? Yeah, that didn't happen, but they pretended that it did. You know, I once saw this like string of comments somewhere on YouTube that said that Io Sky never botches. Here's an example of her botching. And if you're not convinced by that, if you watch the rest of the match, about a dozen more botches happen. And after these dozens of botches, Rhea Ripley accidentally kicks Bianca Belair and thus can't make the cover on Io Sky as she hits the riptide. The crowd counts all the way to 14 because they really want to be part of the show, these neckbeard nobodies. Anyways, Bianca Belair gets in, doesn't care about the kick, at least overtly, and she does her job as a special guest referee. I thought that was the right move for this, right? Obviously, they shat on this a little later, but she counts. At this point, Io Sky kicks out, right? And then the same thing happens. Bianca then gets dropkicked by Io Sky from the top rope, and then she calls for a double disqualification. Why not just call for a disqualification on Io Sky so that at least Rhea Ripley wins, and they can use that to justify adding her to the match, which they will inevitably do. But I guess the answer to that is because, at some point, there's a part where Rhea Ripley just slaps Bianca Belair. It almost looked like a shoot. It almost looked like she just hit her because she was frustrated in real life. It was very weird. Even in character, Bianca Belair does nothing wrong, and Rhea Ripley just slaps her. Which makes me hate the character Rhea Ripley a lot more than before. Eventually, Bianca Belair's had enough. She calls for the double DQ, which means that Io Sky is now still the women's champion, and thus it'll still be Bianca Belair and Io Sky for another week until Rhea Ripley gets added into it. Obviously, she's going to be added into it. There's no need for us to continue this circle jerk. Just have Adam Pearce come out and say it. This then leads to a brawl that ultimately is won by Rhea Ripley, who hits riptides on both broads, then gets Bianca Belair by the hair, hits an avalanche riptide as the fans cheer. It should also be noted that Bianca Belair got heavily booed once again. Now, I know that some people have already put on their conspiracy hat and they're assuming that she's getting booed because people are racist. I've seen these comments all over the internet. It's fucking weird, to be completely honest, because the implications are if you don't like a wrestler that is not white, I guess, then you must be booing them because you're a racist. It couldn't possibly be one of the 25 reasons that the hater pointed out 3 videos ago or so, right? Bianca Belair fucking sucks. Now, I will be honest, and I will say that so does Rhea Ripley. You can watch the video on those reasons as well. Io Sky clearly sucks too, but she's, I think, more entertaining than the other 2 broads. Nevertheless, motherfucks, this match is doomed. Now, for what it was, it told a story. It made the point come clear. And if you're like if you've been watching wrestling for a year or two, you may be like naive enough to not realize that obviously Bianca Belair will be added to the match. But if you've been watching wrestling for any longer than that, you know this is a complete waste of time. So, in summation, I enjoyed this episode of Raw more than I normally enjoy Raw. However, I'm not going to sit here and pretend it was a great episode. A lot of missing links were here, right? The usual suspects. Cody Rhodes didn't wrestle. CM Punk and Seth Rollins, as far as I could tell, didn't show up or wrestle. Obviously, Roman Reigns, forget about him. He's just never going to wrestle again unless it's on pay-per-view or something crazy, right? And nothing else was advanced in terms of actual physical confrontation aside from AJ Styles versus Logan Paul, which in my opinion is an uncompelling WrestleMania match because once again, there's no reason for this match to exist, right? Logan Paul was the US champion last year. Now he's a nobody. I mean, he's an upper mid-carder, I guess, because he enters the Elimination Chamber, he does well in the Rumble, and all these other things. So he's clearly someone that they're positioning as a star. But nevertheless, nothing has happened. Why is he even feuding with AJ Styles? It just seems so lackluster to me. But anyways, it's not here nor there. They've made their decisions. The booking has been done. Now we have to reap the rewards. So, I mean, realistically, Cena and Cody Rhodes, this promo obviously was the best of their last several interactions. However, if you look at it in a vacuum, it was good. But if you look at it, conceptually as part of this feud, it was still trash. They still haven't explained the role of The Rock. And quite frankly, this would have been a good first promo after Elimination Chamber. But it's been a month at least? More than a month since that moment, and this is the first physical interaction they had. In addition, the logic behind Cena getting worked up because Cody Rhodes pointed out to the fact that the fans sometimes tell him he can't wrestle is really, really silly. That's not something that should bother someone of the stature of John Cena at this stage in his career, given the current quote-unquote gimmick that he's running, right? Because his whole thing is, I don't care about the fans. So all of a sudden he cares about the fans. So that was a lukewarm segment, I thought the Jey Uso Gunther segment, and of course Jimmy Uso was there too, and he played a prominent role. I thought that was excellent, especially considering that it also it followed up from what happened last week. Last week they set up the match, but that's not all they did. Jimmy Uso, which is in kayfabe being a great brother, he went and he slapped Gunther in the face to kind of show Jey Uso that, yo, this is just a guy like me and you, right? Which is true. But then, due to, a rare event of good writing and good production, Jimmy Uso got the shit beat out of him, and I didn't even feel bad because the argument is, why the hell are you interfering in this situation with your brother, the Royal Rumble winner, and Gunther, right? You go out there, you slap this man in the face, and now you got to pay the receipt, motherfucker. Just like in real life, you know what I mean? You do some wild shit, and then, you realize you shouldn't have, you get your ass beat. This was very relatable, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, I also liked seeing, the Usos be effectively completely buried because it's like one guy just destroyed the best tag team of all time, as they keep telling us, right? So there you have it, you know what I mean? Also, where the fuck was Sami Zayn? Where the fuck was Roman Reigns? Every time these cocksuckers need somebody, Jey Uso's out there scratching someone's balls. But when Jey Uso needs some help, he ain't got nobody, motherfuckers. It's just me, Us. And that should be like, he should turn heel and just be like, yo, it's just me, fuck everybody else, Because that's kind of like the whole gimmick of Jey Uso, The implicit gimmick is that he's just out on his own. Like, he has no home. Like, nobody gives a fuck about Jey Uso because either he's burned all the bridges, right? Or they've betrayed him. So, good for Jey Uso. Now, with all that being said, this still doesn't make me interested in the match itself. I don't care. It makes me, I guess, a tad more interested just because I can't predict it fully at this point. But we'll see. We'll have the predictions ready for you, hot off the presses, as we get a little bit closer to WrestleMania. But I enjoyed this Raw. This felt like an old school Raw where a lot of things connected and made sense. Even something like the ongoing problems of the Judgment Day were somewhat rectified with a rare win for the Judgment Day and a good team-based win, right? It wasn't just like Finn Balor showed everybody who's boss. Dominic Mysterio's interference was instrumental. Like, Dominic Mysterio won this match. Finn Balor just got the pinfall, right? And Carlito was involved too. So I don't know what's going to happen with them. I don't know what Dominic's role is, but it's looking like it's another Judgment Day versus Braun Breaker and the Lucha Bros, because Phoenix has been signed, I believe. So, if it's that, then who the fuck cares? Unless that match ends with Braun Breaker just destroying everybody, Maybe they do a six-man, six-way, fatal six-way type match. I don't know. That'd be kind of neat, I guess, because that could establish some good storylines. But, overall, this was obviously a filler episode on the road to WrestleMania, but it was a filler episode that was tolerable. Unlike other filler episodes that we've seen, which have been intolerable. So, if we get more of this, the hater will be excited. I will give this episode a rare 7 out of 10. If an Attitude Era great episode is a 10 out of 10, this is a 7. A lot was done here that was right. Now, it could never be a 10 because, quite frankly, the people involved are incapable of earning a score of 10 from the hater unless some crazy shit happens. But in the constraints that we are faced with today, this was undoubtedly, in my opinion, a good episode. Some storytelling, a good Cena promo finally, some emotion from different characters, including the New Day, including, Jimmy Uso, Gunther, Michael Cole even, Cena and Cody, like I said, this should have been the first promo in the Cena and Cody feud, and then they should have gone from there. But what can you do? You know what I mean? The hater doesn't make the rules, cucks. The hater just says it like it is up in this mug. With that being said, take care of yourselves and go fuck your mothers, cuckolds.